Hi everybody and welcome to Thursdays with Annette at 2 o'clock on Facebook Live. I've got a show for you because we're back in the kitchen. Yes, I'm wearing my apron and I cannot wait to cook for you my fantastic butter chicken. Now, before we get into that, let's talk about last week. We were talking about portion distortion. Loved all your feedback. Lots of people tuned in and I'm really happy that you got some great tips because I think it's really important if you know a little bit more about portioning, because sometimes ignorant is not bliss. Let's have a look at some of the comments that I picked out. There were so many, but I just thought, look, Jan wrote, thank you for all these hints on controlling portion size. It makes more sense when you see the comparisons, and she said she loves the show. Well, we love you, Jan. Cheryl Marie commented that she would be lost without her portion plate, and that was one of the examples I gave of how you could work out what a perfect dinner plate would be. Now, Lynn wrote, great ideas. We'll put your tips into practice for both my hubby and myself. So that's great. The both of you are going to get healthy together. And Leanne liked the idea to be able to weigh and know your portions of food before you freeze and serve. So great tips there. Now, Rebecca said, wow, never knew to weigh some foods, especially cheese, for a toasted sandwich. And finally, Regina commented that she thought the information was fantastic. Well, you're fantastic, and has started using the books and started to use the scales and the measures, and she's now seeing a real difference. So fabulous. Good on you for doing that, Regina. Now, our winners for last week won a portion plate. It's in the mail for you, TJ. You're one of the lucky winners. Elizabeth Burson, you won a gorgeous portion plate, and so did Rebecca Costa. So you're the winners for this week. Now, as the show goes on, I always talk about what I'm going to give away. So we'll talk about that later. I wonder what I'm giving away. Let's think about it. Now, today's show, as you know, we're in the kitchen. I'm making butter chicken. Now, Indian food to me is like called heart attack on a plate because it uses so much high fats. So to be able to do a recipe like butter chicken and give it to you at least less than 1/10 of the fats of a traditional one is pretty cool. So it's coming out of my Simply Too Good to Be True #4 cookbook. And this is one of my favourites. Dare I say that I have favourites? It's like saying you've got a favourite child. But, there's my youngest daughter would not be able to live without her sticky pork chop recipe in here. And there's just so many great ones in this one. And it has the bonus section of party food. So this is a great, great cookbook. So let's get started. There's the butter chicken there. And it is the butter chicken without the butter. Yeah. It's a bit of an Irish version. So let's look at the ingredients we need to get started. So we've got a medium-sized onion. We need the chicken breast, and this is one of the things that changes it for Indian food because they mostly use thigh and they will use the skin, but I always go for the very lean. And look, all these little things that I do in a recipe can make a huge difference at the end when you tally up the fat count. I'm going to use some crushed garlic and ginger, some no added salt tomato paste, and I've got all these spices. Now, this is probably the recipe that uses the most spices in any one. But I guarantee that when you have all these, you'll be using them all the time in other recipes because I really like to use your pantry well. So you're going to need some cinnamon, turmeric, some coriander, paprika. You've got some chili powder, stock powder, and some cumin. So they're your spices. Now, most times you'll have most of those anyway, so you could start cooking this tonight. That's the stock powder there, so I like it because it's low salt. A bit of cooking spray, corn flour, and of course the evaporated milk, which replaces the cream that they use in Indian cooking. All right, so let's just move this a little bit, and I'm going to start cooking. Now, I've got to set up my kitchen. I like to be organised, so I'm going to do my rubbish bin. Not that there's going to be much rubbish today, but it's just a habit that I create when I cook. I've already got my soapy water in the sink ready to go, and I've got my utensils out ready as well. So we're going to start first by chopping up the onion. I always like to get that out of the way first. Now, you're just going to dice the onion. Hello, we've been ripped off here, not a good onion. So that's the thing, you never know until you get in there, do you? It's a bit like avocado. So I heard the other day, haven't tried it, so if you want to do it, please let me know, that if you want to avoid your eyes from watering and burning with the onion, because I'm always looking for an answer for that, I hate it, they say that if you drop the onion with the peel on into boiling water, then you won't have a problem when you're doing your onion. So if anyone tries it, because I haven't got time this week to give it a go, but I would love to know. So we're going to dice the onion. And when you think about Indian food, they don't put a lot of vegetables in things, or they just have vegetables and nothing else. So that's why I probably like Thai food a little bit more, because you get like a whole meal in there. So with this recipe, I suggest, you serve a salad with it or some veggies, because you're only getting really the onion and chicken in the sauce. So there's my onion done. I'll get rid of my chopping board. Now we're going to chop up the chicken, and as I said, this is the breast, and it's 800 grams, and I'm going to dice it. I like to do it in sort of like bite-sized pieces. I don't like them to be too big, because I like to be able to chomp down on it and have it straight away instead of having to bite into it and make it smaller. It's better if you just start off with bite-sized pieces. Now, what they normally do in butter chicken traditionally, as I said, they use the thigh, and they love Indian food. They just love to put lots of butter, or what they traditionally will use is ghee. Then they love putting in lots of cream, salt. And the secret to a lot of Indian food, and you might not be aware of this, because I've got to tell you, Indian food is very high in fat. Why? Because of the butter, because of the cream, but also what they do, and this gives it such a great flavour, I might say as well, but they will often in a recipe crush almonds or cashews, or sometimes both, to a paste, and then put that in the sauce. And that's why when you eat Indian food, sometimes you go, oh gosh, this is so delicious. But you've got a lot of hidden fat there that you're probably not even aware of. And that's why I find I can feel a little bit squeamish after Indian food, because it's so high in fat. And often, as like you see it in a container when you've bought some buttered chicken especially, and they'll have like the grease sitting on the top. Like it's just all congealed up the top, and I go, yeah, that doesn't look like it's good for a healthy person, especially when you're looking at your weight loss. All right, so the chopping's done, and I'm going to wash my hands. There we go. All right, so now I'm prepped. How hard was that? And now we're going to start cooking. Now, I always use the jarred, garlic and ginger, as you know. And the reason being is that I can just chuck it in now and I'm done and dusted. If you want to use fresh, then go ahead and just chop it up or crush it up however you like. But I just find it super easy just to do it this way. So I'm going to use my wok. I mean, even though you think of woks as Asian things, I cook so much in this. And it just, because you can toss it around, it's really quick, and the non-stick is fabulous. So first of all, we start with the ginger, and we want half a teaspoon. So I'll just move my little slider down. Half a teaspoon of crushed ginger and a teaspoon of the crushed garlic. Perfect. Now, what I'm going to do now is add in the chicken, and I want to just do it bit by bit. I don't want to just chuck that whole thing in. I want it to start sizzling and getting hot so that it sears the chicken and it doesn't stew it. So just take your time putting your bits of chicken in. Now with this variation, you can do it with rump So you could cook with steak. You could do a butter beef. That's a bit weird to get around. Or you can do it if you're vegetarian with tofu. All right. Oh, I can smell all that garlic and ginger coming up. Let me put this in the sink. And now we're also going to throw in the onion. So we've got everything in there, and I'll just give that a really good stir. This is enough for 6 people, and the fat count per serve is only 3.5 grams of fat. Now, you've got to, butter chicken have to be 35 at least grams of fat if you buy it from the Indian shop, and only 225 calories cooked it my way. So get excited. This is called guilt-free butter chicken. So now while that's cooking, I'm going to show you how I save time with a lot of different spices and that. So what I do is, because there's so many spices, I've got my little glass container here, my little bowl, and I'm going to put all the spices in one go. I do this as well with the tuna risotto in book 7 because it's got a few spices, and so that way then I just throw it in all at once. Because sometimes when you're cooking, if it's got a few and that, it takes a while for you to put it all in and everything gets overcooked. Now I'll show you what I do. See these little lids? I find them really annoying because I just don't shake the food on. So I just get a knife, flick it off, and now I can go straight in there and do a teaspoon of cinnamon. Perfect. Let's go through the list. Coriander, teaspoon of coriander, and notice how I flatten it. You don't go in and just do big scoops. Teaspoon of turmeric. These are all beautiful flavours that you would expect in an Indian recipe, that's for sure. I only want half a teaspoon of cumin, so I'll just move that down. It's quite a strong spice, so you don't want to overload with it. I'll just give my chickie a bit of a stir. That's cooking nicely. What have we got left? We've got paprika, and we're putting in 2 teaspoons of the paprika. So I'll just move that along. Don't buy hot paprika because that's like chili and it would really spoil the dish. So we're just doing 2 of paprika. And now if you don't want it hot, if you're like, I don't really like, I like spice but I don't like hot, then you won't put the chili in. But I'm going to put 1/8 of a teaspoon of chili. And see, with my measure spoons you get exactly the right amount, and that's when I think it's important because of chili. Because how many times have you overdone it and really regretted it? I've got 2 teaspoons of the chicken stock powder. So all those spices are ready. So I can now pop them in one go. How great is that? It just makes it so much easier than stopping and starting and turning them. Now, you want to coat the chicken with all those beautiful spices. So just to remind you, this is a recipe out of book 4. And I've put in here coriander, cumin, paprika, turmeric, did I say coriander? Yes. Cinnamon, chili, and then of course there was the stock powder. Now I'm coating it. Let those spices heat up so the flavours can really get into that chicken. And now I'm going to put in 4 tablespoons of the low salt or the no salt tomato paste. So just measure that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is such an easy recipe because basically all you've got to do is chop up the chicken and the onion. All right, coating the chicken with the tomato paste. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. Now I'm going to do the evaporated milk, which is like, as I said, it's like my version of the cream, which is so much healthier. So you want a can of evaporated light milk and a tablespoon of the corn flour. And that will give it a nice thickening. And a tablespoon. So I normally, when I'm making this, I normally start cooking the rice before I start making the butter chicken because it just is so quick to make. And because it's served 6, you know, you're getting a really good amount of meals here, so you can freeze it, which would only be about 2 or 3 weeks you could freeze this if you had leftovers, mainly because the evaporated milk, anything with milk, you only really want to have it in the freezer for a couple of weeks because it can separate when it's been in there a while. So here we go. Beautiful butter chicken. I'm just going to let that cook up until it boils. Do you know, I have to tell you a quick story. I was at a food expo and I was on stage and I was making this recipe. This is a few years back now. And in the audience was this gorgeous Indian woman. And she had the most phenomenal aqua sari on and she was just a stunner. And she's watching me cook this butter chicken and I went, oh my gosh, she's going to rip me to shreds here. You know, like it's like an Aussie doing, how dare I do a traditional recipe for her in front of her. And at the end of the show, she comes up to me and I go, oh God, here we go. And she went, and I'm not going to try and do an Indian accent because I'm hopeless at that, but she went, you are a miracle. And I'm like, really? She said, I've tasted it, it's fabulous. Every Friday in her house that they make butter, she makes the butter chicken. It takes her 3 hours to prepare it because they're grinding the spices and marinating all stuff. She said, you did that in 6 minutes. She said, what am I going to do on a Friday now? And she was as happy as Larry. And I felt really, really excited that she enjoyed it. So there you go. I think there's nothing better than a testimonial from someone from India for an Indian dish. Now, I actually quickly wrote down, I have got, that I could see, 11 Indian dishes, such as the Indian curry in book 1, tikka chicken book 6, the quick and easy Rogan Josh book 7, Kashmir rice, Indian potato and peas, that's in book 7, mulligatawny soup, dal soup, Indian beans with homemade chapati bread. So easy to make, you should give it a try. And the tandoori lamb burgers in book 7 as well. So you can see I do love Indian, but I've done it all healthy for you. But you know, curries can be really difficult to deal with because often they are very high in fat, like the Indian curry. But over winter, it's such a perfect time to enjoy these type of foods. Now, Diane, what have you got there? You've got my, oh, thank you for the iPad, thank you. I wanted to just show you my winter warmer ebook because it's still winter, it's time to still get it. And in here, you've got loads of recipes and tips for curries, for example, how to make a low-fat curry. You've got lots of stuff in here. I love this book and it's a downloadable ebook. It's only $5.95, so it's fabulous. But I also give you a menu plan to follow with winter recipes, you know, so and winter choices like porridge and things like that, because often in summer you don't want it. Love it a lot. Just check it out on my website. Thanks for showing me that, Diane. That's great. All right, now I'm going to serve up. Yum. Look at this. How divine is this butter chicken? Let's get a bit of extra sauce. So there's the butter chicken out of book 4 at only 3.5 grams of fat. I mean, it took little time or effort, didn't it? So when you write down your comments, can I tell you, let's grab it, what you're going to do if you want to win. What are we going to win? Of course, it'll be book 4. Here we go. You want this recipe, don't you? So book 4 is the one you're going to win this week. All you've got to do is like, share, and in the comments, write hashtag simply with the number 2 good. That's hashtag simply 2 good, and I will pick 3 fabulous people to win a personally signed, I always write in it, to 3 lucky winners. So, I mean, who knew weight loss could be so deliciously healthy? I mean, this butter chicken, one of my favourite recipes on the planet. Now, next week, I'm heading to Bali. It's our 43rd wedding anniversary. Love you, Billy. And we're hitting Bali, and I'm going to try and do FaceTime live in Bali and Seminyak. So we're going to give it a try. Let's see if it works. And I'll be talking about how I go on holidays and not gain a lot of weight, because I do a lot of traveling, and holidays can be a real nightmare when you've been on a healthy program and suddenly you're over there and there's buffet breakfasts and you know you've got this whole, well, I'm on holidays, and you relax. So lots and lots of great tips for you next week. And I just want you to check out the website if you get time as well, because there's lots of tips and resources there and recipes. So go to www.simplytoogood.com.au. So thanks for tuning in. I've had fun in my kitchen. Don't forget, like, share, hashtag, and you could be a winner. See you next week.
Just got it in.